Today is our second session of the 6 weeks training, and we got a lot of feedback from the first session. And of course, if you enjoyed or if you took valuable lessons from the last session, please drop it in the chat. Let me know, was the last session, was it impactful? Did we learn anything? Please drop it in the chat. What are you looking forward to today? Let's get a feel of if you found or if you're finding these sessions helpful. Okay. For those people that are just joining us today, we're gonna do like a 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes recap of what we covered last week, just so that we can build continuity and people are just not hopping on in the middle, and they can flow with the agenda. Okay, so while I'm doing that again, I've not seen any comments on our lessons from last week. What was your key takeaway? Okay, maybe let's do that. What was your key takeaway from last week's session? What was that thing that resonated most with you, right? From what we discussed last week. We said a lot of things last week. We said quite a lot of things last week. And I'm sure that, if nobody said anything, then I'll just take it that I'm a very bad teacher and I really can't pass any message, right? So just as a way, let's just drop message. Okay, so I see comments already. Last session was quite impactful. What we're taught during my MSc became really clear. All right, interesting. Thank you for that. It was interesting to know that we have to learn the use of data analytics and people analytics. Thank you for that as well. So please keep them coming. Drop them. The last session was superb. All right. Okay, so let's get right into it. So like I said, I'm going to do a quick recap of what we covered last week, and then we dive right into the session. All right, so the training again is people analytics. We're learning how to use data analytics techniques on people to manage HR. So we started last week by talking about how data is now a strategic asset for many organizations. Data is no longer a cost center, it's now really valuable, and it can really help us make important decisions, right, about our organization. And we talked about how data-driven organizations outperform their competitors by up to 6% in profitability and up to 5% in productivity. This is according to a research by PwC. We went on to say that collecting and storing data is not just enough, right? The HR data must be analyzed, must be tortured, right? Must be wrangled to reveal insights and to solve business problems, okay? We also talked about how we gave some statistics, right, around how 58% of businesses that rely on data management tools make up to 58% or are expected to meet more likely, are 58% more likely to meet and beat their revenue goals. We talked about how data-driven organizations are 162 times more likely to significantly surpass revenue goals than their counterparts. We talked about how 57% of companies base at least half of their regular business decisions on gut feeling and experience rather than data. We also spoke about how only 31% of organizations have successfully restructured their operation to incorporate data. This is according to research by EY. Okay, now to drill into people analytics or HR data, we spoke about how up to 83% of HR leaders agree that all people decisions should be based on data and analytics. This is according to a research conducted by Sage, right? However, even though 83% of HR leaders agree that all people decisions must be based on data, only 37% use data to solve people management problem. That shows that there is a clear gap with how data-driven the HR department is. And we went on to talk about this quote from Adam Hill. He happens to be the executive vice president of Sage People. And so he said, and I quote, he said, we've already seen sales and marketing teams go through a data science transformation over the last decade with great success. Thereby, they're using insight to better understand and engage with their customer. He said now it's critical that HR follows suit and embrace people science or people analytics to better understand people, to better understand their people, right? So a lot of other functional units in the organization have really embraced data, and they're actually taking strategic decisions with data. And now there needs to be that conscious effort. HR professional needs to now be intentional about using data and analytics for decision making. And that is why Reliance Infosystems put together this training on people analytics, just to give us that the requisite knowledge and skills, one, to improve our careers, and also to help our organizations make effective data-driven decisions. So we went right on to talk about Reliance Infosystems. Again, Reliance Infosystems is the organizer or the facilitator of this training. Reliance Infosystems is an award-winning global ICT organization that help organizations leverage on digital technologies and strategies, as well as innovation, to drive growth, to enhance performance, and also to foster business success. And we talked about how we've helped quite a lot of organizations. We have 6 solution designations. So we've helped customers around infrastructure, data and AI, digital and app innovation, modern work, security, and even business applications. And we have 11 advanced specializations from Microsoft. We are 3 times Microsoft Partner of the Year. So that means that Microsoft trusts us to help customers transform digitally. All right. We have over 1,500 satisfied customers, and we are present in quite a lot of countries, including Nigeria, Ghana, Namibia, Botswana, UK, the US, Pakistan, and so on and so forth. Okay, we spoke about our 3 pillars, namely business transformation, operational excellence, and protection assurance. And we, of course, spoke about all of the solutions that we have to help customers on that business transformation, to name but a few: identity and access management, process automation, data center automation, cloud hosting solution, intelligent building solutions, and so on and so forth. We spoke about operational excellence, how we help organization, how we identify operational excellence to be the way people, data, and systems, and also processes are consecutively interlaced to create an automated production process. All right. Some of the solutions we have here include the modern ERP solutions, which are some of those we are going to be talking about today. Data platforms, we do robotic process automation, business intelligence, data, right? And so those are some of the solutions we have here. And lastly, protection assurance. So we offer a wide range of solutions, and our portfolio of protection assurance offerings help organizations to focus on their core operations by allowing them to concentrate on the resource deployment, on the production and distribution of their products and services. And some of the solutions we have under here are government compliance, security intelligence, endpoint protection, and so on and so forth. Okay. For those of you just joining for the first time, my name is Fatai Sani, and I'm happy to be your facilitator for this training. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm a Microsoft certified data analyst and happens to be the manager for data strategy and business intelligence here at Reliance Infosystems. And I've been doing data analytics for about 8 years. So I'm more than capable to, of course, facilitate this course. Again, to recap expectations for this training, this course is particularly designed for HR professionals and business executives that are interested in extracting insight from people's data and, of course, making informed decisions. So all references and case studies that we are going to be mentioning in this course are going to be specific to the HR domain. So if you are looking for maybe a broader data analytics or big data training, maybe this is not the right training for you. So the course is beginner friendly, and we are going to explore all fundamental to intermediate concepts in HR analytics. So we're not going to be covering advanced concepts like predictive analytics, big data, and so on and so forth. So participants will be expected to complete 2 projects or 2 project-based case studies, 1 project in Excel and Power BI respectively in the course of these 6 weeks. And at the end of this training, participants are expected to be able to describe HR, the types of HR analytics, applications of HR analytics, and also to understand analytics tool, understand the different HR metrics, and also analyze HR data and build dashboards. Again, our ground rules, they are very simple. So all mics are muted by default, so which means that you may not get the opportunity to speak. If you have questions, queries, concerns, please drop all that in the chat box, and myself or my dedicated team of professionals are on this call to help you answer all questions and queries that you may have, right? And also throughout this course, we are going to be having offers for organizations to try out different things. So when those offers are mentioned, if you are interested, there will be a form in the chat room for you to signify interest, and of course someone will reach out to you. So you have to use the chat feature for all questions and concerns. Also, by being in this meeting, you consent to being recorded. So this call is being recorded. Also, please be respectful to everyone, right? As per the recordings of this training, all the slides and recordings will be shared. However, they will be shared after the 6th week. All right. Once we complete the training by the 6th week or after the 6th week, we will be sharing all recordings and materials on that. And if you want to be the first to know where we drop that, you have to be following us on social media, on LinkedIn, Reliance Infosystems, and Modiva. You will get prompt notification as to when we're dropping or where we are dropping the recordings and the slides. This course is a certificate course. You will get a certificate of participation or attendance for being a part of this course. And the only criteria or what you need to satisfy is that you must get a minimum 65% attendance, which means that you must have attended 4 out of the 6, minimum of 4 out of the 6 classes that we are holding. Also, one of the key offers we have for you is if you have specific organization challenges or problems that you would like to discuss, we have a dedicated team of professionals. You're free to schedule a 30 minutes call with any of our team. It could be on data, it could be on HR, or you can also extend this to your IT team. Is it about security? Is it about modern work? Is it about data? Is it about infrastructure, modernization, and so on? We cover a broad spectrum of professional IT services, right? So you're free to schedule a 30-minute call with our professional, and then we will be able to answer all your questions. What are the prerequisites for being a part of this training? You have to have basic knowledge of HR concepts and terminologies. We may not be able to define all of these HR terminology, so we'd expect that you have at least basic knowledge. You also have basic understanding of Microsoft Excel features. We're not going to go really granular, at least basic functionalities like sum, count, average. We expect that you will have that. Then you have to have the ability to commit 2 hours class training and maybe perhaps 2 hours personal practice time for the next 6 weeks. Well, 5 weeks technically. You have to have a PC with minimum 4 GB RAM and 250 GB disk storage. And this is for the application that we're going to be using. Fortunately, most of the systems we have these days are have this capability or meet this minimum requirements. Your PC must be pre-installed with Microsoft Excel and Power BI for you to get the best out of this course. If you don't have Power BI installed, not a problem. Once we get there, we will, of course, share insight on how to download. But if you know you can download Power BI before we get there, I mean, that would equally be fine. That shows that you've planned ahead for the class. Okay. I also did forget to mention that at least your Excel should be minimum 2016 and above, because those have most of the up-to-date features that we will be using when we get to the practical case studies. What are we going to be talking about in this course? We're going to be talking about introduction to HR analytics or people analytics. We talked about types of analytics. We're going to be talking about metrics that matter, data analytics process, sources of HR data, data analytics tool. We could talk about data governance and ethical concerns with HR data. And then we're going to take 2 business case studies. Okay, again, last week we mentioned around what exactly was data analytics. That was where we started from. And of course, we talked about it being the science of analyzing raw data to draw out meaningful and actionable insights. And we spoke about how data analytics with people data is what we understand, or we term the study of people analytics. We went on to do an introduction of what people analytics is about, and we also give 2 definitions, one from Forbes and one from AIHR, on what HR analytics is. To read that one out. So according to AIHR, HR analytics also referred to people analytics or workforce analytics or talent analytics, involves gathering and analyzing and of course reporting on HR data. It enables the organization to measure the impact of a range of HR metrics on overall business performance and make decisions based on data. So in other words, it went on to say HR analytics is a data-driven approach towards human resource management. And I couldn't have defined it better than that. And we also mentioned that some of the best HR analytics endeavors are those that are aligned or are tied with organization goals. Organizations want to make more money. They want to maximize their revenue. They want to minimize their costs. They want to optimize their processes. How are all these HR analytics endeavors, how are they tying into the broad HR, the broad organizational goal? So HR is not an isolated unit of the organization, and every single unit is of course supporting the goal that the business sets out. So you need to query, we mentioned you need to query the processes, the data you collect, and so on and so forth that is going to feed into your HR analytics endeavor, and carefully map how they tie to the business or to organizational goals. We went on, of course, to talk about the role of HR analytics in strategic decision making. We talked about talent acquisition, workforce planning, employee engagement, cost optimization, and so on. And then we mentioned business impact of HR analytics, which is to, let me just go to the next slide. We talked about the types of analytics. Okay, we talked about the types of analytics, which are descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics, and also prescriptive analytics. We give examples of each of these analytics techniques. Descriptive analytics is looking to answer the question around what happened. Diagnostic analytics is looking to answer the question around why did it happen. Predictive analytics is looking to answer the question what will happen, and prescriptive analytics is looking to profile solutions into what can be done to change the outcome of what is expected. Okay, we talked about data analytics tools. We talked about the low-code, no-code tools. We talked about Excel, Power BI, Tableau, and so on and so forth. We talked about the programmatic tools as well, or languages, SQL, Python, and R. And that was where we stopped last week. Okay, so moving on, today we are going to be starting with the people analytics process. Okay, now we've agreed that we want to go on this journey. We want to go on this journey, on this people analytics journey. What are the steps that we need to take? All right. What are the steps that we need to take? How do we start? All right. And what are the step-by-step process that we need to take to go on this journey and to have a purposeful people analytics project? And the very first one is to define objectives. All right. To define our objectives. So clearly defined or clearly identifying the goals and objectives you want to achieve through HR analytics. Now we need to define what exactly, if we need to build an HR project or proceed with an HR endeavor, we need to, of course, identify what it is, what is it that we are trying to solve. Are we trying to improve employee productivity? Are we trying to reduce turnover? Are we trying to enhance recruitment process? Are we trying to identify skill gaps? Are we trying to optimize our talent? Are we trying to optimize it has to be something, because analytics really is to solve people problem, organization problem, and you cannot solve a problem that you have not identified. Okay, so defining the objectives of a people analytics journey is really the first steps, right? So this could be done by gathering stakeholders, right, all based on data, right? Remember we talked about descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, and so on and so forth. It really can start with a question around how do we reduce turnover, or how do we reduce employee attrition, or something similar to that. All right, so the very first step is to define the objectives of what we set out to achieve, right, on this project, or yes, on the project. Number two is now data collection. So most projects fail because people start with data, not with problems. All right. So you find out that you get into an organization, you see lots of data, or maybe lots of HR data, or you see that you have so many tools and application, and then you finish from this training, you want to do something, and the very first thing is to just go to what data do we even have, and you start from there to start analyzing those data. Most time projects like that will fail because you haven't really tied the business problem, or the data you're analyzing, you haven't really tied it to a business problem. All right, so there is often a disconnect. You're trying to solve, maybe what you're trying to solve for is a problem that is not important to the company, for example. Okay, so the very first step is to identify or to define the objectives of your analytics. All right. After that, do we then start, or do we then proceed with data collection? So by data collection here, it could be already existing data, and sometimes the data doesn't even exist. You have to go and of course find that that data All right. So imagine you want to define an objective to say, you want to understand the mood of your staff, or how happy, right, are your staff or your talent within your organization. And you look through, so that is what you have defined, right? That is your objectives. You want to know, you want to know the how happy with the HR team, with the organization that your staff are. So the data doesn't exist. So what do? You design, say, a survey, all right, to do the data collection. But imagine if you didn't start with an objective or with a problem, and you just proceed to say, okay, let's send out a survey, and let's even just, most time you will not be able to capture exactly what it is that you want from that. So data, defining the objective is the first. Then after, we now talk about data collection. All right, so data collection, some data already exists, like I said. Some data you need to set out to collect. And we're going to be talking about some of these data collection and data sources later in today's class. All right, the third one is data preparation. We've identified the objectives of the problem we're trying to solve. We have collected our data. Now, the next thing is we need to prepare this data for analytics, right, or for analysis. The interesting thing is that data never comes clean, right? If you don't take anything away from this class, I mean, if you're going on this journey toward analytics, you would understand that raw data is always dirty. There's a lot of noise in the data, and not all data are useful data. All right. So sometimes you need to filter out the noise. You need to prepare the data for analytics. And we're going to be doing this when we get to the case study. So you find scenarios where you've collected data, but most of the data, say, for example, someone gave you a survey data, maybe the objectives of the project was not defined correctly, and then you structure questionnaires or survey to people, and instead of having say drop downs or pre-selected values around yes, no, rate 1 to 5 or rate 1 to 10, or I mean those predefined responses, say you leave those things open, right? And people say, how do you feel about the organization? That's a very open-ended question, right? So people can go on and on in those survey and give you all of the responses that you need. Now you pass on that data to the analyst and say, oh, we want to know how if people are happy with a particular service or something within the organization. But this is data that is not formatted, that is not that is not formatted, or that is not structured. That's the word I'm looking for. So it doesn't mean that those data cannot be analyzed. Of course, we have to understand that there is a place for qualitative analysis, and there's also the place of quantitative analysis. When we talk about qualitative analysis, of course, people can read this kind of survey responses and sort of get a feel, right, about or come to a conclusion around certain things. But what we're really focusing on for this in this course is the quantitative analytics, right, or quantitative analysis. So which means that when you get this data, you need to now prepare this data for analytics. So this means that you need to handle, say, null values, missing values, and so on and so forth. To give you an example, so I was analyze some HR data, and we're trying to get the average age or how long people stay on the job, right? And then you find out that most of the dates or the join dates are missing, right? Or some of them are incorrect, or they are in a proper, or they are in a different format, right? So if you pass that kind of data straight into your analysis tool, you're going to get a lot of errors. So analysis it's not a magic wand that fixes everything. Your analysis is as good as the data you feed into it. All right. So there is the whole data preparation and the data cleaning process that goes through handling null value, handling wrong or missing values, and so on and so forth. All right. Let me give you another example. Let's say, for instance, you have a HR data. You want to understand the average age of your workforce, okay? And then somebody enters, and then while you're analyzing that data, you see that maybe somebody's age is 105 years old or 110 years old, right? If you don't understand that data and you don't do proper data preparation, you feed in, that can skew the meaning or the insight that you're looking to get from that data, because now you have someone that has maybe 105. Maybe it was a mistake, maybe it's real. I mean, I don't know how that would be real anyways. But you see someone that has an age. So what some of the things on data preparation is, we need to now get feedback as to why is this like that. And there are actually some data that you really can't do anything but maybe say you cannot get feedback. Say for open source data, for example, you see some of these large values. Sometimes you would have to either replace those very large values with maybe the median or the mode, right, of this data, or you even just remove this data because it can skew the outcome of your analysis. So all of these fall under the data preparation techniques where we prepare the data for analysis. Then we move on to step 4, which is the data analysis itself. All right, this is where we analyze the data. This is where, of course, we do all the computing, the statistical analysis, you build charts, you build dashboards, you write maybe, or you use models or algorithms to train your data, and all. So everything fall under, everything you do from statistical analysis to building charts and dashboards to even your models and so on and so forth, everything falls under this step. So step 4 of what people jump to in terms of, oh, we just see data, let's start building charts and reports. That is actually the 4th step, right, of your data analytics process. This should only come after we've defined objectives, we've done the data collection process, we've prepared our data for analysis before we even start analyzing the data. And I've seen quite a lot of instances where people analyze data, and at the end of the day, they are feeding the wrong data, all right? Because there is no, all these processes are not properly adhered to. So you say, oh, last year we had a workforce of, say, 500, and then this year, that workforce has increased to, say, 700 or 1,000. That can be because maybe someone didn't do the proper thing, or people left the organization, that was not properly documented, and so on and so forth. And these things were not caught during the data preparation stage. So you end up analyzing data, but I mean, it's wrong. So after that, we move to step 5, which is interpretation and insights, right? So data analysis is not just for analyzing, all right? Or HR analytics is not just for analyzing the data, it's to extract insights from this data, all right? Which means that after our analytics, we need to now be able to extract meaningful insights from the data. And this is where context and domain knowledge comes in. And we're going to talk about this as we proceed in this course. So let me give you a typical example. Last year, we say, or the year before, let's say 2021, staff strength was 600. 2022 staff strength was 550, and 2023 staff strength was 400. So it's 600, 550, 400. This is the outcome of our analysis, and then we just present this to stakeholders. The next question you're going to get is, so what? What is the insight from this? What is this data telling us? And a lot of the time, people don't contextualize the outcome of the analysis. So we need to be able to contextualize this data. We need to understand the context, and this is where insight comes in. So a good HR analyst or a good people analyst will be able to know, will be able to now say, in addition to giving that staff strength, we can then say that, oh, what's it called? We have an attrition rate of 8% or 10%, or year on year attrition rate is 8%, or turnover rate is this, right? Or staff strength has increased by this. So by extracting the insight from that data, you're able to contextualize, you're able to make meaningful use, right, of that data, as opposed to just giving out the numbers. What a lot of people do when they analyze data is they draw the chart, they draw the graphs, and then they just present it. There are no insights, right? And data analytics is about spotting hidden patterns and identifying insights from these data that we analyze. Number 6 step is where we now talk about communicating our finding. This is where we get into the boardroom. This is where we send emails out to stakeholders for them to identify or to understand what exactly is going on. Data analytics doesn't stop at the analytics process. It doesn't stop at the insight and recommendation process or stage, because all of these things, everything, all the steps that you have done from 1 to 5, perhaps that has just been within the HR department alone, or for the individual, or for the data analyst that sits in the HR team. There are people that are supposed to use the outputs of your analytics, of your insight. And this is where communicating these findings, this is where it comes. Now, there are a lot of things that come into play here when communicating findings. And this is where you need to understand the different stakeholders and how they understand data. There are some people, they don't like seeing charts and graphs and those things. They want to see the figures or the numbers behind those data. And sorry to throw a shade at finance people, this is them, right? They just want to see the numbers spread out. So if you're communicating this kind of finance to say finance professional, you need to bring out, tables, numbers, let them see those numbers. And then if there are comments, you add that. So there are some C-suite executives, they don't have the time to go into the granular details of analysis. They just want to know, what is the problem? How can we solve it? We have an attrition rate of 5% or 10% year on year. Summary, this is how to solve it, or this is what we can do. These are my recommendations for that. So communicating, or effective communication, also comes in when we're looking at HR analytics technique, because you need to communicate the way and the manner that the recipients will understand that data. Don't throw charts and graphs to people that just want to see numbers. Don't throw numbers and figures and tables. There are a lot of people, they get overwhelmed when they look at your reports and all they're seeing is words and text and figures. They get bored. Mostly C-suite exec, they just want to see the high numbers, right? They want to see it at a very high level, and that is why you have executive dashboards in most organizations that just speak to, at a very high level, what is the key information or the key insight from this data I can glean. So you need to understand there are some people that love PowerPoint presentations, right? So if you want to communicate to people that love PowerPoint presentation, don't send a Word document to them, or don't type it in an email, right? You need to communicate, and this is essentially, this is very important, especially if you want to be a data-driven organization. There are some people that data initiatives, C-suite executives are not buying it because they don't communicate the language that the business team or the business unit are communicating. So you want us to increase staff salaries, okay? Being a data-driven HR professional means you're able to first identify what is the trend, perhaps in salaries, what is the, will I say, market trend, or the market average for XYZ professional. What is the performance, right? How has performance improved? And how does increasing the salary affect the bottom line? Or how does it tie into those three organizational goals I mentioned earlier? So increasing our salaries is going to help reduce or increase our retention by X%, is going to help reduce attrition by X%, is going to help us meet market average or beat market average by X%, and so on and so forth. When you communicate like this, it's very easy to have conversations around more than when we're just going with maybe gut feelings, emotion, and saying, yeah, well, our staff are leaving, we need to increase their salary and all. We will not be able to provide that justification or business justification. And that is where data can help a lot when it comes to making decisions with data. And part of that is communicating effectively, right, or communicating the insights to the respective stakeholders. Now, we've communicated our findings. There are now action items. For every analytics project, there are action items that need to be taken. The end goal of analytics is not analytics in itself, is to improve something, right? We want to reduce retention, we want to increase retention, we want to reduce attrition, we want to help our employees become more engaged, we want to, and so on and so on and so on. After this analytics, the next thing is action plan and implementation. What are some of the critical, important things that we need to then do as an output of this analytics? Oh, we are going to enroll for performance appraisal for people that score below 2 or below 3. We're going to enroll them in an L&D program, right? For managers that score low in their behavioral analytics, we need to send them on a behavioral course, or we need to get them to do this, and so on and so forth. This is where we set in the actions as an output. This is what being a data-driven organization means. It doesn't stop at the insight, and it doesn't stop at your report. The output, the data then needs to inform an action that should be taken. And this is where action planning and implementation comes. When we've identified a problem or where we've seen a trajectory, remember, we now need to correct it. We need to do a course correct, or we need to improve on a particular metric. We now need to set clear actions that need to be followed. And finally, we then need to monitor and evaluate. Last week, I mentioned some things around how organization want to improve productivity, or you want to increase retention of a staff. You've done your descriptive analytics. You see that 2% or 3% of your staff are leaving every year or every quarter, or yeah, let's just say every year annually, right? And you want to keep this. So you've seen that is the descriptive analytics. You want to do diagnostic analysis. You want to understand why are these people leaving. I mentioned surveys. I mentioned predictive models, understanding certain metrics or certain patterns. Yeah, patterns is the word I'm looking for. Certain patterns around that are exhibited by these employees when they leave. That's diagnostic analysis. You want to now do predictive analytics. You want to see, will this trend continue, right? If this trend continues, how much more staff am I going to lose in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years? Now brings us to prescriptive analysis. We want to see what actions can we perform now, right, that can help us improve our retention, all right? And this was where we talked about A/B testing, right? So this is the output. We've analyzed the data, we've interpreted the insight, we've communicated our findings. Now we want to carry out an action, okay? What should we do to improve our retention, all right? And this is where we say, okay, let's split. We've identified some staff that exhibit the same patterns that the people who leave has exhibited or have exhibited. Now we want to see, you want to use data-driven techniques to see if you're right? So you identify 10 individuals that are most likely, based on data, are going to resign within the next 2 years or within the next 3 years. So we split them into train and test group, okay? Or yeah, we split them into, control and test, right? So we want to see on one hand, we want to say these people or these people that leave organization typically score low in their 2 previous performance appraisal, or maybe 3 consecutive, or let's say if you score low in 3 consecutive appraisal, we've seen that this can usually or largely influence you leaving the organization. All right. So we want to split these 10 people into 2 groups. We want to enroll group A into a L&D program, right? To help them improve on this on these metrics, and we want to see how that impacts on their next performance appraisal. And we want to leave group B as they are, just to see if this is truly, and at the end of the year or at the end of the quarter or in the next performance appraisal, we can then compare from group A, group B, did this intervention, did it have any impact, all right, on their performance appraisal or on their retention capabilities or whatever it is that we set out to measure initially, all right? Now we need to monitor and evaluate how this is going. We don't just say we are going to perform this action and we're going to implement these certain strategies and then we stop there. We need to monitor and evaluate and use this data. There's a feedback mechanism or a feedback loop where we now use this data and feed it back into our algorithm, our prediction, or our input to better improve our outcomes. I hope I've done a great job at this. Just to go through the comment section, someone said my voice is faint. I'm not sure. So maybe you need to check your audio device. So someone is waiting to join in. Do we have common international laws about handling data in brief? Yes, we are going to talk about them as we proceed. Someone said, how does behavioral analytics work? I don't want to go, of course. Okay, thank you for the thumbs up. I can see that people can hear me. I don't really want to go, of course, but yes, there are some of these things, there are questions or there are surveys that can be filled. This is part of performance appraisal that can be filled by individual or 360 appraisal, where people rate their managers or their peers or their colleagues based on certain metrics or criteria. And then from there, you can make inference or you can draw conclusions around how a certain person, certain person behaves. Okay, now let's move to my favorite part. What metrics or what are the metrics that the HR or the what are the metrics that are important to the HR team? All right, what are the metrics that are important or that we need to really focus on when we're doing people analytics? I've broadly divided it into 10 categories. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, all right? These are just some metrics that we need to pay attention to, or maybe not all. I mean, if it's, for most organizations, I want to believe that these metrics are really important. So we're going to talk about the analysis and we'll talk about some of the metrics. I also have a comprehensive metrics list. The metrics, the definitions, the calculation of how to perform some of these metrics. And I'm going to share my screen after now and possibly also share that at the end of the training. Let's start with the number 1. So the very first one Okay. Interestingly, my slides are behaving funny. I don't know why. Okay, the very first one, let's talk about attendance analysis. All right, why do we need this? All right, so attendance analysis is a type of HR analytics that involves the collection, the analysis, and interpretation of data related to employee attendance. Okay, now we have our first poll in the chat. Okay, one of these is not part of the HR analytics process. All right, one of these is not part of the HR analytics process. I want us to respond to this. Is it objective definition? Is it data collection, result mapping, or is it implementation? Which is it? One of them is not part of the HR analytics process. All right. I already see some very interesting responses in the chat. Okay. A lot of people are saying it is implementation. Are you serious? Implementation is not part of the HR analytics process. Some people are saying it's objective definition. Wow, really? Okay. Some people are saying it is data collection. So data collection is not part of HR analysis. That's interesting, right? The answer, which of course a lot of people have responded to, is result mapping. All right. We don't map results, right? We reveal the insights as presented by the data. We don't doctor the data. We don't map any result. And I'm happy that a lot of people got that correctly. Okay, so that's our first poll for today. We're also going to have more as we proceed. Now let's talk about attendance analysis. All right. So we talked about attendance analysis, the type of HR analytics that involves the collection, the analysis, and interpretation of data related to employee attendance. So here we're able to identify areas where improvement can be made to increase employee attendance and to reduce absenteeism. Okay, what are some of the expected outcomes from this? You're able to reduce costs associated with employee absenteeism. You can improve employee productivity, and also you can enhance overall employee satisfaction. All right, let's talk about some metrics under attendance analysis. Number one is absenteeism cost. All right, by analyzing the cost associated with employees, you're able to clearly understand how much the business, what value the business is losing due to absenteeism. And absenteeism cost can be calculated by looking at the total hours lost to employee absenteeism for the month, multiplied by or times the total compensation. Okay. So absenteeism cost, some of the metrics that we can track here are absenteeism cost, the rate of absenteeism, all right, the cost, or let's say illness absence rate, and also metrics around disability leaves and absenteeism. All right, so on the absenteeism rate, I have roughly about 15 or 20 metrics. Of course, these are not exhaustive, that we will share after this class. This includes, like I said, some of the metrics included, some of the metrics we can measure, right? How to measure them, and of course, the calculation, all right, on how to do this, all right? So analyzing absenteeism data can help us reduce costs associated with employee absenteeism, can help us improve productivity, and also enhance overall employee satisfaction. Let's go to the second one we have. We look at compensation analysis, all right? So this revolves examination of various compensation components to understand patterns, to understand trends, and the overall impact on the workforce. Okay, what is the purpose, or why should HR teams focus on this? Number one, or what is the purpose of this kind of analytics? Number one is to ensure that employees are being paid fairly and equitably, and also to identify opportunities to improve compensation practices. What do organizations expect, or the expected outcome from this? It helps organizations to attract and retain top clients, top talents, sorry. It helps to reduce turnover rate, and it also helps to improve overall employee satisfaction. Some metrics that can be tracked under compensation analysis. Number one, we're looking at average compensation paid to each full-time employee. You want to know what is the average, will I say, compensation to employees. You want to know healthcare costs per employee. What is the cost of, will I say, healthcare on the organization per employee, and how does that compare to, say, industry average or your competitors? All right, this can largely influence if your compensation package is better than competitors or organizations in your industry. Okay, labor cost expense percentage. So talking about labor cost expense percentage, we're looking at total labor cost as a percentage of the total expenses. All right. And then we can also talk about comparative ratio by gender for organizations that are looking to have, will I say, gender parity in terms of pay and all. By analyzing your compensation package, you can easily see, are there any, will I say, bias when it comes to paying or compensation packages per gender. Sometimes this may not be deliberate or intentional. However, if we look into the data, we analyze this data, we can see a pattern or a trend. There was a research that was done by many organizations to look at tech companies, all right, and also Fortune 500 companies. And this finds that in senior management, women generally earn, I think, about 15 or 16% less than their male counterparts with the same education, the same experience, and so on and so forth. So this can help you quickly identify if there is any bias in your system, and that you can fix when you analyze these kinds of data. So that's for compensation analysis. Let's look at number 3, HR efficiency analysis. So here we are looking at HR efficiency analysis as it relates to examining HR processes, workflow and activities within an organization to assess the efficiency and effectiveness of HR operations. So basically, this is the HR team analyzing themselves, right? How are they faring or performing when it comes to carrying out or executing HR functions? So what is the purpose of this? It helps to create a more efficient HR department that can better serve the needs of the organization and its employees. Okay, what are some of the expected outcomes? It helps to streamline processes. You get to know what are some of your processes, where to identify bottlenecks in your processes, to understand some of the cost saving or where the company or the team is losing money, all right, to help to improve your service delivery, and also to enhance strategic contribution. When you analyze the effectiveness or the efficiency of HR initiatives, you can quickly identify where there are, will I say, where there are blockers, what metrics needs to be improved, and so on and so forth. Some of the metrics we are looking at here includes average time to resolve a request. Most times you want to to judge the team's effectiveness or responsiveness to employee concerns when people raise leave requests, when people raise loan requests, and so on and so forth. Because all of these things have a lot to do with employee satisfaction and employee engagement. If employees know that they get response quickly when they reach out or when they need something from the HR, it gives a measure of comfort, right, to employees. So average time to request. We're also looking at HR cost per employee. We're going to talk about this in the next few slides, right? So we need to know what are the costs associated to each employee. How do you define HR cost by employee? We look at the total departmental cost. Say last year or 2023, the HR budget was ₦1 million, and we have 500 employees, right? So what is the cost to service each employee? That's just basically dividing the total HR cost or departmental HR cost by the total employees. Then you can understand what it costs to serve one employee. And again, this metric can then be used to say, do we need to review upwards? Do we need to review downwards, and so on and so forth? Say you're spending 100 million on HR costs, for example, and you're servicing 20 clients, right? So when you do that maths, you get to see how much it's costing to serve just one employee, and that can set the conversation around whether to improve or to go on a cost-saving measure. We also talk about HR as outsourcing percentage. This is the outsourcing expense as a percentage of total HR expense. So you want to look at what is the cost for outsourcing certain activity as a ratio of the total HR expense. And this can, of course, help to improve some, will I say, functions that can best be handled internally as opposed to outsourcing. So say you have a 5-man team, a 5-man HR team, right? And you still see that maybe your outsourcing percent is 60% of the total HR cost, all right? You may look to perhaps bring in more maybe manpower, right, into the HR in order to reduce that cost. Remember, one of the core goals, right, is to do cost reduction. So when we analyze what is the percentage of our outsourcing spend over the total HR cost, because we need to put it in context. It's not a full story to say we are spending 20 million on outsourcing services, right? What is the context to judge? So we put this side by side or use with our total HR spend, and then we can see what is the percentage of outsourcing expense. The net promoter score. This, of course, is the one that helps to calculate the percentage of respondents. So when you set out HR surveys on the performance of the HR team, and then you want to know who are your promoters and detractors in the organization. So where you get individuals who would not recommend your organization, so you can use this to know if your company is a great place to work, because that's what all companies say anyways, that we are the best place to work. But do your employee really think so? And then, of course, there are a lot of websites where employees go to review companies anyway. So do you want to do this internally so that you get a honest feedback or rating about how employees feel about the HR department and about the organization in general? So knowing your net promoter score or your employee net promoter score or HR net promoter score can help you identify if your staff recommend the organization as a great place to work, and so on and so forth. So basically, employees who score who score you 1 to 6, I think they're detractors, which means that they most likely will not recommend the organization. Employees who score, if you score 7 and 8, right? These are neutral. They may or they may not recommend. And then 9 and 10 are actually your promoters. These are your champions, right? So if you are looking to champion a particular initiative and you want people who, of course, confidentiality is key. You want people who are going to promote HR initiatives, or you want champions within the organization to champion a particular cause. You want to use your promoters because these are people who genuinely feel satisfied about certain about the HR team and about the organization in itself. Let's move to L&D. All right, learning and development analysis. So here, learning and development analysis entails leveraging data to assess the effectiveness of learning platforms, to also assess employee skill development and the impact of training on organizational performance. Most organizations have a budget for L&D, but can you pause to ask yourself, how effective is our L&D or our L&D program, or how effective are we able to tie the cost associated to L&D? Are we able to tie it to productivity? All right. So let's look at the purpose. So the purpose of analyzing these metrics is to provide insight that can be used to improve the effectiveness of training programs and enhance employee performance. So we want to analyze the data regarding learning and development to know the effectiveness of training programs, whether internally or externally, and also to enhance employee performance, because of course that is the ultimate goal of learning and development. So what are some of the expected outcomes from this? It helps to improve learning outcomes, because when you can adequately track if this is going to be tied to productivity, then of course you can improve learning outcome. It helps you to find cost-effective training. It also helps you to do continuous improvement in talent development. All right. What are some of the metrics that you can track or you can measure under L&D? We're looking at change in job performance after an L&D program. For example, let's say everyone, like I said earlier, that scores in the last performance appraisal over 5, if you score 2 or below, you're automatically enrolled in an L&D program, all right, to help you improve on certain skills. Right now, after going through this program, we need to now look at, that doesn't end there. By the next performance appraisal, how did this program, that is how to measure the effectiveness of the program, how did this improve or impact the performance of this employee in the next appraisal? So you can look at change in job performance after L&D, and I actually have a calculation for that. So we look at year 2, let's say we look at current year performance score minus previous year performance score divided by previous year performance score as a measure of percentage. So you're able to see, look at the performance and then tie that to the L&D program. We also look at learning and development costs. All right, these are costs associated to L&D programs. We look at revenue percentage. Let me just get that. Okay, so we look at revenue percentage, and then we also look at onboarding cost per employee. So if there are particular programs that employee needs to go through as part of their onboarding program, this can also be analyzed. So can we compare hiring interns to hiring maybe junior to mid-level talent, right? So let's say it cost us 100,000 to hire an intern, and we've tracked our L&D cost per employee to get them from maybe junior to mid-level in 6 months at say 100,000 or 200,000. So which means that it's going to cost us 100,000 to pay the staff and then 200,000 for this program, and we can get them to learn and D. So we can adequately make justification to hire junior and save cost as opposed to hiring a mid-level personnel, right, or talent for that same position. Of course, it's a case-by-case basis. I'm just using that as an example. So we are able to use data to prove that this L&D program is effective based on data. Let's look at the next. Analytics, or the next metric, business productivity analysis. This is my favorite. Now, business productivity analysis involves the systematic examination of workforce data to measure and enhance overall organizational efficiency and productivity. This is where we now actually tie business or HR people analytics to business productivity. And you're going to see that in a few minutes. What is the purpose of this kind of analysis? Analysis aims to assess efficiency of HR, right? It helps to optimize resource allocation. It helps to identify bottlenecks, and it also helps to benchmark productivity against industry standards. What are the expected outcomes here? You're looking to streamline processes, effective resource management, right? You're able to benchmark performance against competitors or against the industry, and cultivation of culture of continuous improvement. So here, this is HR analytics for the boardroom, right? Where you talk about business productivity. If you go to any C-suite executive with a business productivity standpoint, or from a business productivity standpoint, they're always going to listen to you, all right? Because you are talking the language you understand. What are some of the metrics you can track here? Customer retention, employee engagement, human capital return on investment. For every dollar that is being invested into the HR department, what percentage do we churn out? And if you can really crack this, right, you will not have a lot of problems when it comes to maybe increasing the HR budget, right? Because once you can effectively say that for every $1 the management gives to you, this is the return on investment they get on this dollar. I mean, everybody wants to invest 1 and get 10, all right? So if you can say, analyze your HR data and say that for every $1 invested in HR, all right, you get 10 in return. And if you master this, conversations are easier when it comes to getting budgets or getting approval for certain things. It's not always easy to go to management to say, oh, we need $10,000 to pay for LinkedIn courses or to pay for Pluralsight courses. The very first question you get is, what is the return on, what is the ROI? What is the justification? What is this? What is that? But if you're able to calculate, I mean, the ROI on these initiatives, very, very simple to scale through conversations around budget and also the revenue per employee. And this is where I want us to really do a little exercise. Let's look at an hypothetical company. All right. This is a company called Trap. All right. This is the performance or the revenue performance of this company from 2019 to 2023. Okay. So this company made 122 million in 2019. They made 136 million in 2020. They made 148 million in 2021, 151 million in 2022, and 156 million in 2023. Looking at this at face value, you can see that this is a company on the path of growth because revenue is increasing year on year. The head count as at 2019 was 420. Head count as at 2019 was 420. As at 2020 was 507. As at 2021 was 557. As at 2022 was 603. And as at 2023, it was 700. Now, here comes the interesting part, the revenue per employee for all of these years. Whilst 2023 was the best year, okay, so we have a poll in the chat. All right, let's take this poll, right? So the HR analytics that deals with improving the effectiveness of training programs is called what? This should be a very simple one. Is it R&B? I want to see somebody that would choose a different answer. So we have R&B analytics, R&D analytics, L&R analytics, and L&D. Everybody is choosing the same answer. Okay, interesting. All right, let's see. So the responses are still coming in. So now, the company made its highest revenue in 2023, 156 million. And then, of course, the least revenue in 2019, 122 million. But look at the revenue per employee, right, for these same years. While this company is growing, of course, the head count is increasing. And at the end of the day, we made, or this company Tra, made the least revenue per employee in 2023 as compared to when they first started. All right, these are the kind of analytics that is, of course, is being performed in the boardroom because this will help to measure business productivity. We are making money, fine, all right, but what is it costing? What is the cost? How much does, and how is revenue per employee calculated? This is basically dividing the total revenue. So this can come in a different way. It can be profit per employee, it can be cost per employee, it can be revenue per employee, and so on. What we have here is revenue per employee. So basically dividing the total revenue of the organization by the head count. So this company had an head count of 420 in 2019, and this increased to 700 in 2023. So revenue per employee reduced from 2019 to 2023. I want people to answer in the chat. What do you think is wrong with company Tra? Is this good? Is this bad for them? Or it doesn't matter, all right? Is this good, right? Looking at the revenue per employee figures, all right? Looking at the revenue per employee figures for the last 5 years, okay? So someone says for confirmation, is it revenue per head count or average head count? Revenue per head count. This is the total head count, 700 in 2023. So we divided the total revenue by the head count. So we see that for each employee, we made 222,000 in 2023. However, in 2019, for each employee, we made 290. So the response says it is not good as revenue should increase and number of employees increase. Someone says, looks, they need to reduce on the number of employees for more productivity. Okay, so it needs to be addressed. It appears we have the number of employees growing faster than the revenue. Someone say not good enough. The employees are not effectively optimized. All of these are theories. All of the responses are valid, but to confirm what exactly happened, we would need to contextualize and put more context into this data. Now, let's compare this to industry. It's possible that in their industry, talents, maybe we need more people to do the same work. I mean, anything. So let's compare this company and let's compare them to organizations, right? On their level. So we have 4 companies here. Company On, Company Do, Company Tra, and Company Cat. Okay, these are 4 companies. Let's call them Company Tra competitors. So let's look at the revenue performance or the performance of all of these companies in 2023. Okay. So what we see is that the first company, Company On, had, of course, had 223 or made 223 million with a revenue, with an head count of 460 employees. Company Do made 156 million with head count of 700. Company Tra, which is made a revenue of 149 million with 330 employees, and the Company Cat made 300 million with 900 head count. Let's look at the revenue per employee. Okay, this is company Do. Sorry, this is Company Do. Okay, so let's look at the revenue per employee of all of these organizations. Okay, so we see that even though Company Cat has made the largest revenue, all right, they had the highest head count, all right, and Company On made the least revenue, or well, not the least revenue, but they had the least, they had the highest when it comes to revenue per employee. What this is telling you is around how to look at data or revenue data when we are looking at business productivity, right, as a function of the employee. Okay, with this, we can effectively look at the comparative analysis with other companies and see where we are lacking. So this is Company Do. So it was Company Do we analyzed at first, which is 156 million. And you can see that amongst the competitors, this company still made the least revenue per employee when compared to all of their competitors. This clearly says or shows that there needs to be an action, there needs to be a workforce optimization that should be carried out in this organization. It could be managers are not utilizing their staff effectively, right? It could be that we are bringing in the wrong talent and we're having to hire more people to do the same job. All of these are theories, and they will need to be validated and tested with different statistical techniques, all right? It could be that we're bringing in the wrong talent. It could be that managers are not utilizing talent effectively. It could be that perhaps the business expanded too quickly and we have a lot of redundant positions in the organization. This would set the right conversation or the right, yes, it will get us started on the right conversation on how to optimize, all right, business performance or our workforce in order to increase our revenue per employee. Okay, very good. Let's move on. Let's look at retention analysis. All right. So here we are looking at retention analysis. This involves examining employee data to understand and enhance employee retention rates within an organization. What is the purpose of this? Is to create a work environment that promotes employee well-being and reduce stress and burnout. Some of the expected outcomes, we're looking at streamlining processes, we're looking at cost saving, improving service delivery, and also enhanced strategic contribution. What are the metrics that we can track under retention analysis? Number one is cost of turnover. How much is it costing us to lose staff? There's cost associated with employee attrition. The cost to refill that, to fill that role, the cost associated with how long it's going to take to fill the role, the cost associated with how long the new employee can perform at the optimal level of the previous employee. When we're able to properly identify what is the cost, of course, I have a metric for this as well. When we're able to adequately put a cost to turnover, it makes certain conversation around should we keep a talent and enroll them in an L&D program as opposed to letting them go, right, and bringing in a new staff. It costs less to train, right, than it may cost to bring in new talent. All right. We also look at turnover rate. This is the rate at which employees are leaving the organization, and that can be calculated by looking at the total turnover versus total head count. We can also look at metrics around 1 to 3 years of service turnover rate. So in addition to tracking turnover, you can also look at 1 to 3 years. If, for example, let's say you look at the total turnover, and then you look at the number of turnover within employees that have only 1 to 3 years of service. What that indicates for your organization is that you are not, perhaps you have a toxic environment that is not allowing employees or new employees to stay, and they're having to lose them within 1 to 3 years. And you can easily fix, or you can easily look into how that can be fixed. It's one thing to have an employee turnover, but if you look critically and a large percentage of your turnover is coming between, say, 1 to 2 years or 1 to 3 years of service, it may say something around how your company do not have the right policies or the right culture in place to attract and keep talent. Okay, we can also look at turnover by manager. This clearly indicates what employees are leaving by manager, and here you can quickly spotlight how effectiveness of how a manager is handling a subordinate. You can look at critical role turnover. This is the rate of turnover for employees who hold critical role. And this helps to do things around succession planning, to look around how to create a pipeline of talent if we have people in critical roles that are with high turnover. Okay, let's also look at talent acquisition. Okay, talent acquisition, here we're looking at patterns in the data to support decision making related to recruiting and onboarding processes, activities, and outcomes. The purpose of this analytics is to understand candidates and recruitment data and discover insights that help organizations make decisions in their recruiting and onboarding process, and ultimately to meet business objectives. Okay, what are some of the expected outcomes if we take talent acquisition analysis seriously? We are able to streamline your recruitment. You can improve your quality of hires. You can enhance your sorting strategies, and you can reduce your time to fill. Some of the metrics you can look into here are diversity hire ratio. What is the ratio of people who self-identify to have disabilities to the total workforce or to the total hiring rate? We can look at cost per hire. How much does it cost us to hire a talent or to attract a talent? This includes HR costs, if they are billable hours, they include the time from filling out the requisition to when these employees join, and how when they are able to perform optimally. We can look at average external time to fill. We can look at quality of hire. All of these are metrics that we can track in talent acquisition. Let's look at well-being analytics, number 8. So here in well-being analysis, this involves collecting and analyzing data. Okay, so before we start that, so we have a new poll. So one of the most effective ways of identifying cause of employee churn is is it analyzing turnover data? Is it reducing onboarding costs? Is it checking their PC? Or is it monitoring employee social media? Okay, let's see what interesting responses we have. Okay, we can see everybody saying analyzing turnover data. So checking employees' PC is not an effective way of identifying cause of employee churn. Okay, analyzing turnover data. Okay, interesting. Or monitoring employee social media. Okay, very interesting. Thank you. Okay, so well-being analysis. So here we're looking at this involves collecting and analyzing data related to employee well-being. Okay, such as stress level, job satisfaction, work-life balance, to identify areas where improvements can be made. What is the purpose of this? So the goal of this well-being analysis is to create a work environment that promotes employee well-being and reduces stress and burnout. What are the expected outcomes from this analysis? It helps to improve employee satisfaction. It helps to effective well-being programs, all right? Stress reduction strategies, and also to enhance work-life balance. What are some of the metrics we can track here? So percentage of overtime worked, workplace accident rate, percentage of sick days used, number of emails sent after work hours, and so on and so forth. There are some applications right now, especially if you're on the M365 suite. If you're sending mails or you're trying to chat someone outside office hours, sometimes it prompts you to wait till during office hours for you to send these mails, because your well-being, right? You should have time to work and also time to relax. And there are a number of solutions that can help with this. One of them is the Microsoft Viva Insight, which sort of gives pointers, right, into the employee well-being. So these are data that individuals, some of them, of course, are personal to the employee. Some of them, the HR can see, or the administrator can see, of course, not the personal data, but at an aggregated level, to see how much time people are spending in meetings, how long a meeting lasts, how many meetings are people attending in a day, how much emails are they responding to, and so on and so forth. How much do they work outside official hours, all right? All of these insights help you to manage your employee well-being. And the Viva insights within the Microsoft suite help you with some of this, okay? Let's look at workforce demography. I think this is the last one. So workforce demography. So here we're looking at, examining demographic data within an organizational workforce to understand its composition, its diversity, and also trends. The purpose of this is to create a diverse and inclusive work environment that promotes employee well-being and also to reduce stress and burn. I think we talked about this already. So what are some of the expected outcomes when organizations focus on analyzing this type of data? So we can see diversity insights. You can see you can get informed inclusion initiatives, strategic succession planning, compliance assurance, and so on and so forth. So some of the metrics you can track include age distribution, the gender distribution of your workforce, the diversity percentage, employee or average length of service, and so on. I'm going to stop sharing this screen temporarily and share an Excel file that basically has a number of metrics that employees or HR organization can track, including the so we have in here all of the metrics that I've spoken about, all of the metrics that matter regarding attendance. So we have all of these metrics: absenteeism, cost, rate of absenteeism, disability. This gives you the definition of this metric as well as the calculation of how to do this. So for example, if you want to look at cost of absenteeism, so you are looking at total hours lost to employee absenteeism for the month multiplied by the total compensation. Okay. We also look at compensation metrics. All right. So here we are looking at comparative ratio by gender. We can look at comparative ratio by protected category. We looked at the definition as well as the formula to calculate this in your organization if you are looking to optimize or measure this type of metrics. We can look at HR efficiency. Perhaps I can zoom my screen a little so it's easy for us to follow. So looking at HR efficiency, we can look at average time to resolve a request, HR cost per employee, HR full-time ratio, net promoter score. This one is percentage of net promoters minus percentage of detractors. We can look at HR utilization, which is number of billable hours divided by total hours times 100. We can look at learning and development, or we looked at learning and development metrics. There are a number of HR metrics under learning and development, changing number of coaching conversation, changing engagement after L&D program. We looked at the definition as well as the calculation for this. We also looked at productivity. We looked at a number of metrics under productivity, the definition, and as well as the calculation. So we're going to be sharing this Excel file, right, at the end of the program, of course, so that we all can look at it, internalize which of the metrics are we looking to optimize for in our organization, and also proceed to start measuring these metrics, or to start tracking these metrics, and also to start calculating these metrics. Okay, so let's go back to our slide. If there are any questions so far, can we please signify in the chat? Someone said, can we please get a copy of the spreadsheet? Yes, you can. I just explained. Oh, people have been saying expand and zoom out. Sorry, I got that memo late, and I think I did. So this Excel sheet would be shared at the end of the training. So it has about 250 HR metrics that we can measure. To round up, let's quickly look at sources of HR data. And this is where we would be ending our class for today. So let's look at some sources of HR data. Where can we get HR data in our organization? Some of them, data can be gotten through surveys, right? I mentioned exit surveys the other time. We've talked about HR efficiency surveys. This can be anything, right? Survey around performance, reviews, and so on. And so all of these are effective sources of HR data. Number two, our data can also include Excel. So we can also manually store HR data in spreadsheets. And this is particularly useful for smaller organizations, right? So you can also get data from Excel files. We can get data from survey. We can also get app telemetry. We can get HR data from app telemetry. I mentioned Viva Insights the other time. So Viva Insights help us to get really good insights on personal and professional growth offerings, and even offers personalized dashboards and recommendation for individuals within an organization. Interesting thing is Viva Insight is part of the M365 suite. So if you're an organization here and you're currently on M365, we have a dedicated team of professionals that can help you integrate, will I say, Microsoft Viva, and then you can start sending alerts, such as the one I showed in the previous slide, to your staff, and they can start seeing information around their collaboration, their well-being, teamwork, and so on and so forth. So if, as an organization, you're interested in meeting our team of experts, you can please signify in the chat. One of our professionals on the call would, of course, reach out to you. There will also be, I think, a form that will be shared. You can also signify interest in that as well. So we can help with everything around modern work, and also how to plug in Viva Insights. There are also different solutions in the Viva suite, Viva Learning, Viva Engage, and so on and so forth. That can, of course, be very, very useful for HR professionals. Microsoft Graph is also one of the key places to get HR data under app and telemetry. There are also organizations that use time trackers and so on and so forth to measure things around maybe employee productivity, and also to track efficiency at work. Databases for more structured organization. You can get data from database. Most HRS systems also have a way to pull or export data to databases, so that teams can actually use that to actually analyze effective data effectively. Okay. Number 5, we have single version of truth, which is data warehouse. One of the really big problems that HR team or that organization face when it comes to using data is single version of truth. So you have data. It's not like you don't have the data, but you have data scattered everywhere. Some are in your HRS system. Some are in your other ERP solutions. You have finance data. You have data in spreadsheets and flat files, and so on and so forth. And there is no connection. There's no single version of truth for your data. And this is where having a proper data warehouse comes in. I happen to work out of the data team within Reliance Infosystems, and we've helped quite a lot of organizations unify all their data. So if you have data spread across your organization, from finance to operation to even HR, or even within the HR department, you have data spread everywhere, we can help with this unification step so that you can get a universal insight across all of your data, and you're not just reporting on siloed data. For example, look at the business productivity numbers around the other time. Even though your HR system will give you sample information around your employees, headcount, and so on, you're most likely not going to get revenue numbers, all right, in your HRS. This is where system integration comes into place, and data unification as well. And of course, the Reliance team or the data team helps organization on this data unification process. Okay. So for organizations that are looking to have conversations around this, like we said earlier, you can schedule a free 30-minute session All you have to do is drop a signify interest in the chat, and our dedicated professional will reach out to you, and they would have a call where we can brainstorm on a lot of ideas on how to move or how to transform digitally. And of course, this is at no extra cost. Okay, another sort of HR data is HIRS. So here, this is very familiar to a lot of, will I say, organizations. Reliance also have, some of them includes the Dynamics 365 suite of applications. You can get, or some ERP. So here you can get data from sources like this if you're looking to analyze your data. So Reliance Infosystems also offer a number of solutions to customer around Dynamics 365, finance and operation, field service, customer voice, customer service, monitoring, sales, commerce, and so on and so forth. We also have an homegrown ERP solution called Opramatic. So Opramatic is a cost-effective and easy to navigate ERP solution that is suitable for small to medium business owners, all right, that want low-cost option for, say, accounting, HR, admin, inventory, and so on. And we have different models in Opramatic. One of them is the HCM model, which basically speaks to managing everything around staff appraisal, onboarding and offboarding, performance management, L&D management, payroll, right? In addition to other modules that are in Opramatic. So you're not just limited to the HCM module or the human resource module. You also have finance management in this solution. You have supply chain management. You have customer relationship management. You have inventory control, project management. You have employee self-service, and also you have vendor relationship management as well in Opramatic. So some of the benefits of Opramatic, you have a centralized system. It's very, very cost effective. You have operational efficiency. The speed is a cloud-based solution, which means that you don't have to install anything, you don't require any physical setup. And it's also very flexible for you. Drum roll, so wait for this. Interestingly, for participants on this call, Reliance Infosystems is offering 5 organizations the opportunity to use Opramatic ERP for 2 months, all right, for free, all right, at no cost, all right. You have the opportunity to work or to use Opramatic for 2 months, all right, and this is open to 5 organizations. So if this interests you, right? If this interests you, kindly drop a message, or this interesting organization, can please drop a message in the chat, all right? And then someone will respond to you. Take it up, and then we can have a call. Of course, this is will I say first come, first serve basis. Okay, so if you know that you're looking to onboard an HIRS solution or an ERP solution in your organization, or you are looking to explore other HIRS solution, right? Opramatic is just for you, and it also can help save a lot of cost, because not only are you getting the human or HCM module in Opramatic, you're also going to get all of the other modules in this at a fraction of what it will cost you to onboard any other ERP. So we mentioned finance module, we mentioned supply chain management, we mentioned CRM, we mentioned the HCM, we mentioned inventory, project management, employee self-service, vendor management, and so on and so forth. So you can please signify in the chat if this is something you're interested in. There's also a form that is going to go out for you to signify interest if this is something you're interested in, and then a dedicated team of professionals will reach out to you. Okay, there is a poll in the chat, right? So please try to take this poll. Let me see who is going to rate what I think they are going to rate. Okay. Okay, so that's for pragmatic. We also have, so let's say you are very conscious of cost. You don't want to onboard maybe a solution, or you are looking for a low code, no code solution. All right. You want to go the Power Platform route. We also have a low code, no code solution called Human 360, right? For employee self-service. All right. This is built on Power Platform only. So it's a low code, no code tool, and is very, very cost effective for people that are conscious about cost, or you're a very small organization. If you're interested, simply comment. If you're interested in a pragmatic, you can simply comment. What do you comment if you're interested in a pragmatic? Just comment on pragmatic if you're interested in a pragmatic, and comment Human 360 if this is something you're interested in, and our professional is going to reach out to you. Finally, this is what we're going to end the session with. I remember I said we're going to end the session with sources of HR data. But why do HR data initiatives fail? We've gone through this journey. We've talked about the types of analytics. We talk about why people do this analytics. We've talked about how to get data, how to collect data, and so on. But despite what all of this, why do HR initiatives fail, or HR data initiatives fail? Let's look at some of them. These are some of the top reasons why HR analytics projects fail. Number one is you may be solving the wrong problem. All right. Remember when I talked about problem identification or defining your objectives? A lot of times people get data and they just start analyzing. There are people that they call them data happy soldier. You know, the way you have trigger happy official, you can have data happy. They just see data and they just start analyzing. There is no thought to how we are tying this to a business goal. So most time you're solving the wrong problem, or you're solving a problem that is not tied to the organizational goal. Okay, as an HR unit. Okay, so most times when these types of initiatives are put into production, or they are about to be rolled out for the entire organization, it fails because there is no this problem is not a problem that is being identified as to be a real problem. Number second one is actionable insights are not the focal end goal. You're not looking to get insights from data. There are some people, I have a term for it, feel good analytics. People want to go into the boardroom sometimes and they want to just throw around numbers to show that, or they want to analyze and they want to make themselves feel good or look good, right? Either to the boardroom or to in the boardroom, or maybe to executive management. So you just pin up one analysis and say HR something, this project or this initiative can help us save 60% of our cost. All right. If we do this, at the end of the day, you're not, the insights and the focus is not to improve any business metric. It's really just to run good numbers and see good numbers, and you're not really interested in taking the insights from that. All right. And there's different scenarios where this used to happen in sales a lot, right? So you go into the boardroom, you go there, and then you say this business unit or people accept or adopt data when it suits them, and when it doesn't suit them, you say, no, that is not true. But when you go there and say, this business unit, you've improved by 20%, the head of the unit say, yes, I said it. You people don't listen to me, right? But when the data speaks otherwise, they outrightly reject that, okay? The third one I mentioned is HR analytics is not tied to a business goal. The fourth one is lack of domain knowledge. Sometimes we analyze HR data without the necessary domain knowledge. Look at all the metrics we spoke about earlier. sometimes people they don't understand the domain knowledge. So when I started, I said people analytics is using data analytics techniques on HR principles. Sometimes people have HR knowledge, they don't have the data analytics techniques. So projects fail. Sometimes people have data analysts, but they don't understand HR. So they embark on, they just see data, they analyze, they push it out, they extract insight, and it doesn't, no clear outcome is being communicated. Okay. So domain knowledge is very key. So as data analysts are looking to transition into HR analytics, you need to get domain knowledge of HR principles. So which means that you need to take courses, you need to understand, and also speak to HR people in your organization to analyze HR data. Okay. Then there's no clear implementation roadmap. So you analyze all of the data, is looking good and all. And then when it comes to implementation, there's no follow through. There's no executive buy-in into this initiative. Ultimately, that project is going to fail. And then lastly, data silos. Okay. You have a lot of data, they're scattered everywhere, I mentioned, and there's no way to sort of make this data together. So you're identifying, you're analyzing data in silos. There are many instances where people come up with this number, the same unit in the same organization. These people say we have improved by X%. This one say no, it is Y% or it is not up to that. So you all get this argument because everybody have their own single version of truth. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a very, very interesting 2 hours. Okay, and this ultimately may be the last of the presentation we are going to do. By next week, be ready with your Excel, okay, because we're actually going to start getting our hands dirty, right, from next week, dirty with analytics, of course. All right. We've been able to lay the foundation for people analytics, for HR analytics. Please note, everything we have learned from last week till this point is just the tip of the iceberg of what HR analytics entails. From next week, we are going to get into the hard work, right, of actually putting all of these principles to test. We're going to analyze data, we're going to tackle business case studies, and we're going to solve them together. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I would like to stop here. I don't know if there are any questions that I can take. Let me quickly look at the chat. Someone said, please, what version of Excel should we prepare for to install on our machine? I said 2016 and above. If you have Office 365, that is really, really perfect. It means that you are using the latest version of Excel. If you are using Excel, maybe an old version of Excel, and you can really upgrade your Excel or update your Excel before the next session, please kindly do that. Someone said, can we share the slides? Yes, or the slides, the Excel HR metrics I mentioned, as well as the recordings. All of this will be shared after 6th week. Okay, what other question is here? I've seen a lot of interest for Pragmatic on Human 360. Like I said, professionals are going to reach out to you. There's also a form in the chat. There's a form in the chat that you can fill for if you are interested in Pragmatic. Okay, there's a form. Kindly fill this form to be a part of the 5 organizations that will take Pragmatic for a spin. I don't know if there are any questions. I want to be conscious of time. Someone said, thank you much for this well-delivered and impactful session. Please, want to know if a certificate will be issued after this training? Yes, it will. You only have to meet 4 out of 6 classes, 63% attendance, 4 out of 6. I'm not sure that's 63%. So you for recordings of this class, please follow Reliance Infosystems and Modiva on LinkedIn. Recordings are going to be dropped, or the dates as well as the recordings are going to be dropped on those platforms. If you look at the chat, you are going to see you're going to see link to follow Reliance Infosystems and Modiva on LinkedIn. Excel 2016, yes, somebody asked what version of Excel. Excel 2016. What else? What else? What else? Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure spending the last 2 hours with you. Please endeavor to follow us on LinkedIn. Reliance Infosystems is the name. Be sure to fill the forms for Pragmatic as well as feedback form if you find this insightful. How do we mark attendance? Don't worry about that. That is automatic. We are data-driven organization. Okay, so your data is captured. You don't need to mark attendance. Okay, if you're looking to also schedule the 30-minute free session, please do that. Ms. Idoni, any comment? I think I'm seeing a hands up. I don't know if that's
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. So in the course of Fatai's presentation, he mentioned Modiva. Now, Modiva is an initiative from Reliance Infosystems that helps IT professionals scale up. It's a platform. We help them with certification. As an IT professional, for you to prove your competency, you will need to acquire some certifications. So being a major Microsoft cloud service provider, we have the wherewithal, right, to assist these IT professionals go through the training and also give them vouchers. And to write on the certification exam, they are not cheap. We give them free vouchers to write this certification exam, and we also guide them on writing the exam at no cost, absolutely free. So you can reach out to your IT professionals to sign up on the Reliance Modiva platform, and we will take the journey from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Vince Idoni. Yes, Modiva. Sign up your IT professionals to Modiva. They get to be trained for free, or they get to go through Microsoft training and also get Microsoft certification for free at no cost. I mean, Reliance Infosystems. Can we, I don't know, please, can we clap, please? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our session today. See you next week when we start our journey into hardcore analytics. Ladies and gentlemen, have a pleasant afternoon. Bye-bye.